Welcome to my channel, as I make your most horrible nightmares reality.
Experiment of Death. In Oklahoma, our group of teenagers had gone to the Wichita National Forest to camp and just be ourselves. But there happened something unnatural that ended catastrophically bad. Our age ranged from 15 to 20 years, which could explain some reasons that happened, but I'll get to it later on. First off, we all were a group of pretty close friends who just wanted a time out of being at home, because camping in the forest is exciting and spooky at times. Our all hometown was Twizzler, which also is a big city in Oklahoma that is very beautiful. And we knew each other from high school and got to hang out very much over the years and build a clique. Our plan on doing this was to explore the forest and just getting some fresh air as we needed it. It was refreshing and felt somewhat adventurous. To your info, we were around 10 people in the group, so it got kinda crazy at times, but we were smart enough to handle it all together. As I, 18 years old, wasn't the oldest one, but one of the oldest and most responsible, I was one of the holders in between to stabilize and support our friendship, so we wouldn't start fighting and arguing. As I was saying, we've been wanting to do this for a while, and now was the perfect time for us. We all were very curious and adventurous, because we hadn't really done any of those trips in all the years we've been a clique. So we had our camping equipment with us, as we didn't know yet where to put the tents up. The Wichita National Forest was big, so it would have taken us a while to find a perfect camping spot. After a 3-mile walk through the forest, we came to a conclusion that it would be best to rest as we all got somewhat tired. It all looked very interesting and wonderful, but yet we were a bit careful and cautious because we are mostly alone out here. Gladly though, it was a good spot for us, as the trees surrounded us and gave us more safety, or so it seemed. The following night was getting a bit odd. We slept pretty good, but heard a lot of weird noises coming from another part of the forest. Some of us woke up rapidly and slightly confused, because we didn't know what was going on. Of course, we had our phones with us to keep in contact if anything happened. When the sounds didn't stop, we all got up, and to be sure, most of us thought we should look on what's going on. In our backpacks, us teens had flashlights to see better at night, and so us 6 friends were out in the dark to look for whatever or whoever made this spooky noise. We weren't exactly sure what to think, and we got a bit paranoid from all the thoughts circling around in our minds. Still, we continued searching, and after around 30 minutes of not finding the source, we went back to our camping site to tell the others that there was nothing, and we might have just heard animals. As we awoke the next morning, nothing was out of place, and we were all still laying in our tents. A bit later, our bellies rumbled and it was time to eat. Gladly, we took food with us, so we had something to strengthen us when we possibly needed. This day wasn't bad, and we went through the forest and of course packed our camping stuff and took it with us. We came to a spot that offered a wonderful view downwards the woods. The view was really wide open, and our group occasionally saw buildings showing through the tops of the trees, which was not bad at all. We all enjoyed it and started talking to each other about some funny stuff that stuck in our minds. After a 30-minute break, we continued our trip again through the trees, which was really amazing as we felt the breeze coming and passing our faces. Then some of us got to a path with signs that showed weird scratchings and notes all over. We yelled at the rest to come over and look at it. Those notes were gibberish and didn't even make sense in any sort of way. A few then got ahead of themselves and ran immediately past at a sign that looked kinda freaky and dangerous. We could only imagine so, as it was nothing good to see on it, because some were just scratched signs that showed in different directions, but this one didn't look like anything we've ever seen. We wanted to stop the others from getting near whatever there was, so we followed them, but this made it only worse. When we reached the others, we were all standing in front of a gateway to some sort of laboratory. The only thing that reminded us about it was an alchemic note grabated into the door. All of us were curious, but also scared, and went away from the door because we didn't know what was waiting on the other side. Then, suddenly, the door opened up with a really loud screeching, as if it hasn't gotten old in a long time, and it spooked us. 4 of us, including me, went in after a short time getting our shit together. It was pretty dark, with metal stairs leading down to some sort of basement. After getting there, we realized it was not a basement at all, rather a big room, with lots of experimental equipment, and following another one with a closed door yet again. Then, in a split second, the first door closed and locked itself, which seemed very unnatural, as it wasn't locked before. Out of nowhere, a deep voice appeared saying,
"You are now my experimental victims. You shouldn't have come here in the first place. But now that you have, it's going to be a blast seeing and hearing you scream and die."
Immediately we tried calling our friends, and as soon as they answered, we screamed that there was something wrong with this place. Our friends couldn't really hear us, since the calling connection was pretty low, and didn't know what to do, as they were in as much panic as we were at that moment. Now, we truly were standing alone against a killer with many opportunities to get rid of us. None of those doors would open up, so we had been trapped. A table appeared out of nowhere, and then stood in the middle of the room. There were scary looking items being put on it to demonstrate what was about to begin. Then the voice spoke again.
"You see this table right there? Those placed items are used for experiments and more. You have no choice but to grab them and do what I tell you to."
Sadly, we had no other choice, and were standing at the table as 1 second later, spikes began to come out of the floor, and were going up towards one of my friends and burrowed effortlessly through the flesh of his. Blood began to run out of his body, and was just fucked up. I hated to see him scream, cry, and die in front of our own eyes, as we weren't able to do anything for him. He then lay dead in the burrowed spikes, with the blood continuously splashing out of his veins. After a short moment of time, the real challenge was about to begin. It was more like the experience of death, as the killer wanted to see and try out several methods to kill teenagers like us. Before us on the table, we had a few items like a flamewaffer or a chainsaw, and needed to try out certain stuff that seemed legitimately undoable. The first experimental challenge was to balance the motoring chainsaw on my left shoulder, while it is on for around 2 minutes. At the beginning, it wasn't as bad as it got after a short time, because the imbalance came in and showed its fucked up side. The chainsaw slipped from my shoulder and sawed through my arm, but not like a clean cut. It was rather ugly and bloody when it got too stuck there for a bit. I screamed for pain and yelled to my friends to either get it out as fast as possible or to cut through, even though I knew I would lose my left arm either way, because the wound was too big there. I couldn't take it anymore as the pain became too much and knocked out. This was when I didn't see what happened in the second and last challenge. But it must have been so fucking awful, because when I awoke sometime later, another friend of us was dead. It seemed like the killer wanted her to kill our friend with the flamewaffer, and I could clearly see how burned he was, how his flesh got off and showed his bones. It was so horrifying that I started puking, crying, and swearing. I then asked myself how it could be that we were the ones to do something terrible like this, why we had come here in the first place, and also what his intentions were to let us do this. No answers, just questions being stuck in our heads, and maybe only one chance to get out of here alive. My female friend helped me up because I was still somewhat weak, and it was so painful to feel the wound I've gotten. We tried to find something to open up the door, and 10 minutes later we did find a good and strong crowbar laying around in the dark. The door was hard to get open, but it finally worked, and we both ran to our other friends standing outside wondering what happened. When we told them, they started crying and were so sorry for stopping here. But the most important thing now was to bring me to a hospital, so they could help me to see the wound up. Altogether, we found a hospital that wasn't that far away in the town we saw when we passed the place with the amazing view. I was so happy to still be alive after all of this, and from then on, we just stayed together as a group, and our trust only grew stronger from this event. But we never intended on going on such a trip ever again, because we were afraid of getting somewhere dangerous. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have learned something about it. Not every forest is easy to comprehend with, and you have no idea what is going to happen in that forest anyway, so better be careful what you do. See you guys around.